Hello and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance. I'm your host, Alacius Inger.
I'm your host, Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody doing today? How's it going, Lace?
Absolutely fabulous. Duncan, what are we going to talk to these fine folks about today?
Well, we're going to talk about last week's disastrous Twitter hearing for the Republicans. It's really a scene out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's really great. And
tweet, baby.
Yes, then Lacey's going to explain to us how to break down an insult. And then,
good.
And then,
good. That's my
favorite. And then we'll go through. I also wanted to go through the State of the Union because the president did talk about a lot of financial stuff, so wanted to cover some of that. And then, and then we'll have some videos hopefully to go through to close it out. So, but it's a big news day, so a lot to get through. So we'll start out with the Twitter hearing. So last week, the Republican Oversight Committee held a hearing with former Twitter execs, which makes no sense to me. Why are we talking to people that no longer work there? But it's up to them, right? It's their hearing. And got a little out of control. So just so you know,
define out of control, Duncan. What do we mean by that?
I don't have to define. I can show you.
Show me what out of control looks like, Duncan. Show me.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, the hearing was. Wait a minute.
Does this deserve the title "Republicans Gone Wild"?
It could be. It could be. That could be a good one.
I'm so excited. Let's do it.
So first off, real quick, it was over 6 hours. This Twitter hearing, so it was a long hearing. Mostly,
that is not a tweet, man. Yeah. Tweets are concise.
Mostly, it was about this New York Post article that came out in 2020 about Joe Biden's son Hunter, and there was some stuff that was leaked onto Twitter that were apparently nude photos of him, right? And of course, Twitter has this deal where you can't post nude photos of somebody, especially somebody who doesn't want them posted. Right.
I'm not usually all about censorship, but that feels pretty fair to me.
Well, plus you
can't post other people's naked photos. That feels
yeah. So I think it falls under revenge porn and shit like that. So it's just right. So I'm with Twitter on this one, but I also, as a private company, they can set the rules for the most part on what they want to do, as long as they're not discriminating, right?
Wait a minute. So that would sound like, so you can post other people's naked photos, but you over there, you can't.
Yeah, they can't do that stuff. If they post a rule, it's for everybody, right? It's just like you go to a restaurant. If they say no shoes, no shirt, no service, it applies for everybody, right? It's like some really nice restaurants require you as a guy to wear a jacket, right? So that's, if you post a rule, as long as it's not discriminating, it's cool with a business. The Republicans don't seem to get that. They seem to think that the First Amendment applies to private businesses, and it doesn't. It only applies to what the government can do, right? So, anyway, let's watch them get confused. Here's Lauren Boebert. We're going to start with her, and even though this hearing has nothing to do with her personally, she's going to take it very personal here. So we're going to jump into the middle of her craziness. So these people are all not the people that are sitting at the desk here, former Twitter employees. They're not there anymore.
Not to the best of my recollection. Well, let me refresh your memory, because on March 12th, 2021, and Mr. Roth, I know you looked at it, because Fascist Twitter 1.0 had a public interest exceptions policy, which means for members of Congress to be shadow banned, it had to go before you, Mr. Roth. So I'll ask again, did you shadow ban my account? Yes or no?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
So the answer is, Mr. Roth, yes, you did. I found out last night from Twitter staff that you suppressed my account for this tweet. It's a freaking joke about Hillary Clinton being angry.
Okay, so... Yeah, she started...
Wow. Okay, so this is now a hearing where the mission is particular politicians just going after Twitter for having their own tweets.
Right. So she's trying to make it into the Twitter is biased towards liberals.
For me,
Yeah, well, it's biased towards liberals, and you just attack me and the conservatives, right? We're the victims, right? That's how she spun. But she started at an 11, and she took it up to a 15 real quick. I mean,
Wow. Okay.
I mean, she is literally 5-year-old throwing a tantrum in Toys R Us level right now. I mean, first off, there's that. Second off, the shadow ban thing. I don't know. That's a conservative dog whistle term. I don't know what it means. Basically, what happened was her account got suspended for this tweet, and we'll show the tweet here real quick. And so this tweet here was what she got suspended for. She didn't get shadow banned by some mysterious entity. She got suspended because this tweet, Hillary must be pissed it took the DNC until 2020 to successfully rig an election. She's basically saying the 2020 election was rigged. And after January 16th, right, because this was January 9th, after January 6th with the insurrection at the Capitol, Twitter was banning anything that said election denial or election fraud because those things had already led to a violent insurrection at the Capitol. So Twitter was saying, we're not posting that. We're suspending all that stuff. So she got suspended for violating Twitter's rules. But she thinks it's a big conspiracy, right? So let's just let her finish this out real quick. But it's just crazy. But you see this. She's saying the election was rigged to all the Trump supporters. And these are the people that just attacked the Capitol 3 days earlier. Right?
She couldn't rig her election. It's a joke. But in response, being the sinister overlords that you all are, you placed a 90-day account filter so I could not be found. And now we see here the Twitter staff said the visibility filter on my account excluded me from top searches, prevented notifications for non-followers, and much more. This is considered an aggressive visibility filter. You silenced members of Congress from communicating with their constituents. You silenced me from communicating with the American people over a freaking joke. Now, who the hell?
So let's read this though, because they told her they're suspending her and why. Right? The tweet received a civic integrity misinformation label. Right? It was wrong. There was no rigging of the election. From automation on this date, 3/12, this resulted in the 90 days of account level visibility filtering that expired on 6/10. So, account wasn't even suspended or banned. It was just filtered for a few days, for a few months. That's it. That's what she's freaking out about here. Let's go back and let's have her watch her scream about it, but it's fucking nuts.
Over a freaking joke. Now, who the hell do you think that you are? Election interference? Yeah, I would say that was taking place because of you four sitting here. The Hunter Biden laptop story was suppressed. A sitting member of Congress was suppressed. A sitting president was banned from Twitter. You know, I bet that Putin is sitting in the Kremlin wishing he had as much election interference as you four here today. We've heard about threats to democracy. Well, what about shutting down a duly elected member of...
She makes me anxious. I don't want to watch her anymore. Like, I really just want to switch her to decaf.
Oh my god, it's just such a...
So give her some herbal tea. Just be like, chill, lady. Like, you would think that, like, they took her and tied her up to an office chair with duct tape over her mouth or something.
Right. No, this is the spoiled girl getting kicked off the dance team kind of thing in high school. And who the hell do you think you are? Oh my god.
Wow. Gosh. You know what? I'm glad that I'm drinking herbal tea right now because I feel like I need to come down a few notches after that. Like, she was revved up, man.
Oh, she is out there. She is way out there. So she was, of course, everybody was making fun of her because that was just out there. She's all upset about that. Now, she was out there. Marjorie Taylor Greene was also out there. And Marjorie Taylor Greene did the same thing, except for Marjorie Taylor Greene decided not to ask any questions. She decided just to yell at them for 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. And we have the full 5. We're not gonna watch the full 5, but I'll play it at 1.5 just so we can all get a taste. Because otherwise, this goes on and on and on.
I feel like we've seen her act crazy before.
Oh yeah, but this is good. She out crazies Lauren here. Let's do a little. Who out crazies better? Who did it better?
Let us know in the comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Baker, Ms. Gaddy, Mr. Roth, and Ms. Navaroli. You can consider your speech canceled during my time because you canceled mine. See, you permanently banned my personal Twitter account, and it was my campaign account also. So let's talk about election interference, shall we? January 2nd, 2002, you permanently banned my Twitter account. This was the account that I would put my campaign ads on, raise money on, fight back when attacked with lies, and be able to talk to my voters in my district. But you banned it.
Okay, but what did it say? Let's go back and read it, because this is what I love about these people. What does it say? Your account is permanently suspended. After careful review, we determined your account broke the Twitter rules. And they have the link to the Twitter rules, right? Your account is permanently in read-only mode, which means she can't add anything to it, but people can still view it, right? Which means you can't tweet, retweet, or like content. You won't be able to create new accounts. If you think we got this wrong, you can submit an appeal. Nobody's stopping her from saying, hey, I disagree, and this is why. But she's making it sound like this was some sinister plot.
To my voters in my district, but you banned it. And then let me explain. My account was not reinstated until November 21st, 2022. That was after my election on November 8th. You know, at your company, or your former company, where you worked, Twitter employees, over 98% of them donate to Democrats. So while you coordinated with DHS, the FBI, the CIA, our government, and outside groups to permanently ban, shadow ban conservative Americans and candidates like me and the former president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, you were censoring and wrongfully violating our First Amendment free speech rights.
Okay, let's break that bullshit down. So, the executive at Twitter, they got together with the CIA and the DHS and, I don't know, Health and Human Resources. God knows who else. The Martians. And they decided, hey, since we donate more money to Democrats, we're gonna ban all the conservatives and rig the election from inside Twitter. A company that lost money 10 of the last 12 years. Well, I guess now 11 of the last 13. With all of our wealth and power, Twitter is going to rig the election by stopping the conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, she'll get into what the tweets were that they banned her on. And basically, she's anti-vax, and it's COVID misinformation, which was stuff that was getting people killed. And Twitter said, we're not going to allow any misinformation like that unless it's approved or it's backed by the CDC or the World Health Organization or something like that, American Medical Association. So she's posting false things about the COVID vaccine killing people, which nobody's died from the COVID vaccine. There's no reported death from anybody who took the vaccine getting killed by it. Okay? So agree with me or disagree with me, it's just a fact. But that's what it was. And so they banned her account for that because she kept doing it after they asked her to stop. That's all that's happened here. And the fact that she doesn't understand what the First Amendment is kills me. Companies are not bound by the First Amendment. Lacey and I are not bound by the First Amendment. You know why? Because we're not the United States government. The United States government is bound by the First Amendment. That's what those amendments are, things the government can't do to you. Not things that the government has to force businesses to allow you to do. Right? Because if you did allow free speech like that on Twitter, then that means that we could get up and spew all kinds of hate and misinformation on Twitter. Right? And then Twitter would lose subscribers and viewers and followers and all that shit, right? So Twitter, we're forcing them to damage their business. which would be a violation of that company's rights, right? So Twitter has the right. We have just like we have the right to not allow certain things on our show. So anyway, but we'll keep going with Marjorie here, but she is just fucking nuts. Because this is already involving now the CIA and the FBI and all kinds of stuff that nobody's mentioned any of this. This is all her. I mean,
Guess what? None of you hold security clearances. None of you are elected. And none of you represent 750,000 people like I do. Let's explain. 52 United States Law 10101. No person shall intimidate, threaten, coerce, or attempt to stop any other person for the purpose of interfering with their rights to vote or to vote as he may choose. You didn't shadow ban or permanently ban my Democrat opponent. No, you did that to me. And that was wrong, and it was against the law. You see, not only that, was it me that you violated my First Amendment rights?
it wasn't against the law. They didn't inhibit anybody from voting. They inhibited her from using their product. That's it. She doesn't get it. I mean, she's so stupid. She doesn't get it.
Rights. You violated countless conservative Americans. These were doctors that were trying to tell the truth about COVID. Doctors that were having success treating people with ivermectin that you all would not allow to be talked about on your platform. These were parents complaining about their school boards, teaching gender lies.
Because there was no real success with ivermectin. That's why.
Schools. Biological males entering their daughters' bathrooms and sports. These were also people questioning the 2020 election. And guess what? That's Americans' First Amendment right. These were people talking about voting machines. You know what? Democrats did that in 2019.
Well, wait a second, though. That's what she doesn't get, too. Is the First Amendment, it does protect your right to speech. It does not protect your right to violent or hate speech. And that's been found by the Supreme Court. I can't go into the old adage. I can't go into a movie theater and scream fire because people could rush out and get hurt. Right? So it's the same thing here where she's saying if these people are spewing misinformation about the elections. You back? You froze there for a second. Yeah. But this misinformation about the election stuff led to the insurrection where a police officer died, where a woman got shot in the hallway. You know, several other people died afterwards. I mean, this led to a violent incident. So yeah, I can see where Twitter doesn't want to be involved with it at all as a company. And if you're going to be spewing that shit on our platform, no, we're gonna shut down your channel. That's all that's happened here. I mean, nothing. I mean, she makes it sound sinister, but nothing's happened.
Before the 2020 election, on Twitter, people could question elections such as 2016, saying Hillary won, but in 2020, no one could question elections saying Trump won. You abuse the power of a large corporation, big tech, to censor Americans.
Look at these people. They're just staring. Oh, God. What the fuck is she talking about? Nobody is taking her seriously. Check it out, Lacey. See this woman in the back with the pink shirt? The purplish pink shirt?
Yeah.
She's just smiling like this is so stupid. Oh, man.
Know something? Guess what? I'm so glad that you're censored down. I'm so glad you've lost your jobs. Thank God Elon Musk bought Twitter. And you know what? Let's talk about something a little bit further. It's amazing to me, Mr. Roth, as the head and trust of safety at Twitter, your ability, or should I say inability, to remove child porn. Now, here's something that disgusts me about you. In your doctoral dissertation entitled Gay Data, you argued that minors should have access to Grindr, an adult male gay hookup app. Minors? Really? You know, Elon Musk took over Twitter and he banned 44,000 accounts that were promoting child porn. You permanently banned my Twitter account, but you allowed child porn all over Twitter. Twitter had become a platform, you said, connecting queer young...
And it's not child porn. I was curious about this, so I looked it up. We didn't promote child porn. Basically, he was part of his job at Twitter was marketing expansion, and he was trying to get more LGBTQ kind of stuff, right? When she's talking about child porn, it was something like there were a few photos of like young men and women who are like 17, 18 kissing. It's not porn. We show teenagers kissing on fucking television all the time. I mean, this is not just because they happen to be the same sex doesn't make it porn. That's what she's going on. And he didn't say that minors should be allowed on Grindr. He said 18 plus should be allowed on Grindr.
Was there an age limitation that was higher than that before?
It was
like
it was 21 for a long time. Right. But he was saying it should be 18 plus like any other dating site. I don't think there's an issue with why do we have to treat them differently, was kind of his point. So, but see, he's just got to sit there and take it. I mean, I feel bad for him. I mean, I think he's a gay man, from what my understanding. I could be wrong, but to sit there and take it from a homophobic bigot like that and just have to be nice about it, I feel bad for him. I mean, it's
Well, somebody's yelling at you about child porn, which has
nothing to do
what
with
sounds like literally nothing to do with anything.
at all whatsoever. So we'll finish her out real quick. This is nuts. We've been playing this at 1.5 speed, by the way. Look how long this took.
Adults. You also wrote on Twitter in 2010, can high school students ever meaningfully consent to sex with their teachers? In 2021, while you were the director of trust and safety on Twitter.
Wait. That was another. You wrote, can high school students ever meaningfully consent to have sex with their teachers? That's a good point. No, they can't. That was his point.
Yeah, that's called a rhetorical question.
Yeah. He wasn't saying they should. He was saying no. No, they can't meaningfully consent.
An underage boy and his mother announced a lawsuit against Twitter because Twitter was benefiting from and refused to remove a lewd video featuring this boy and another minor. That is repulsive. But you violated me. What were my tweets? Okay, let's talk about them. I was talking about the deaths being reported on VAERS.
Okay, so she's saying thousands of people are reporting very serious life-changing vaccine side effects from taking COVID vaccine. She's saying almost 6,000 people died, right? According to the CDC website. And social media is censoring these stories. And Biden's going over to push the shots. This is all I wanted to get to for her speech. Right here, this is all bullshit. There have been no reported deaths from the vaccine. So she's discouraging people from taking the vaccine.
Any clue where she got this number from?
She got it from VAERS. So VAERS is it's self-reported. I don't know if you signed up for that when you did the vaccine. I did. So you do it and you can self-report like, hey, I'm having this side effect or that side effect. And then they take the correlation of all that data. And if they see, a meaningful blip somewhere, then they'll go check it out. Right? Because it could be an early warning sign that, oh, maybe there is a problem with the vaccine or whatnot. But you got to remember is when she says, okay, the 5,946 deaths are reported from people who got the vaccine, right? Well, first off, that can't be true because you can't report your own death. It's a logistical problem. It's really hard to report your own death when you're dead.
So you mean to tell me if I call in dead to work tomorrow?
Yeah, they probably won't buy it.
They probably won't believe me.
No.
And it will not be a fact that I'm actually dead when I call to report myself dead. Right.
The other thing...
Now you're just trying to censor me.
Yeah, I'm just censoring you, Lacey. I'm violating your First Amendment rights.
Right?
So the other thing is these 6,000 deaths really been reported. So these are people that got the vaccine and then within a month or two died, right? A lot of these people died from other things. Some of these people died in car accidents. Did the vaccine cause the car accident? Probably not. Right? A lot of these people that died were already super old. And they were going to die anyway. But none of these deaths of people that died after getting the vaccine, none of them were linked to the vaccine. They were all deaths that were caused by something else. But when you sit there and say, the way she's saying it, these people died because of the vaccine, we need to stop the vaccine, that's misinformation during a pandemic, which can get people killed. you can understand why if you're Twitter, you don't want to potentially be caught up in a lawsuit for that kind of shit later on. So you start pulling it off your site. So that's what they shut her down for. That's what she's all upset about, and she's all whiny about. So that was that was them. I just love how they're so upset. Reminds me of you ever see that with the Addams Family movies? At the end of the second one, Joan Cusack plays the serial killer that kind of infiltrates the family, and she's got them all tied up to the chairs, and she's going through a slideshow of all of her ex-husbands that she's killed. and there's a point where she's talking about when she killed her parents, and she's like, and then what happened? My 14th birthday. What did I get? Malibu Barbie. I wasn't Malibu Barbie. I was Ballerina Barbie. Delicate, graceful. They had to go. That's what this whole thing is. You silenced my account. You were being irrational and selfish with the CIA, the Jewish space lasers. I want an Oompa Loompa now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wish I could just, hold court for anybody who happens to irritate me.
I love to think too about these are conservatives that are like, yeah, we're too nice to our kids. I'm like, really? You guys have the most spoiled brats on the fucking planet. Sorry, most liberal kids would have gotten smacked if we act like that. Our parents didn't have the money or the time to put up with that shit.
No.
So let's go through this real quick because I just want to, Sarah. So this whole thing is their whole theory. This is Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene's whole theory behind this was, had Twitter not, one, banned their accounts and banned or not banned their accounts, but blocked their accounts, and had Twitter not blocked the nude pics of Hunter Biden, Trump would have won the 2020 election. That's what this whole psychotic hearing was about, is this conspiracy theory. They think Trump would have won had it not been for the intervening of Twitter. He lost that by, 11 million votes? But here's what got really funny. And now we're going to move into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was also at this hearing. And she did not talk about her personal Twitter account. In fact, none of the Democrats talked about their Twitter accounts. But she does bring up an interesting point here. So let's look at AOC.
All right, AOC, what do you got for us?
It's a clip from Morning Joe that I stole from them.
I'd like to show you a tweet posted by former President Trump about my colleagues and I on July 14, 2019. It says in part, quote, "Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came?"
My team, Ray, made the recommendation that for the first time we find Donald Trump in violation of Twitter's policies.
At the time, Twitter's policy included a specific example when it came to banned abuse against immigrants, as they specifically included the phrase, "go back to your country," or go back to where you came from, correct?
Yes, that was specifically included in the content moderation guidance as an example.
You brought this up to the Vice President of Trust and Safety, Del Harvey, correct?
I did, yes.
And she overrode your assessment, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And something interesting happened after she overrode your assessment. A day or two later, Twitter seemed to have changed their policies, didn't they?
Yes, that trope, "go back to where you came from," was removed from the content moderation guidance as an example.
So Twitter changed their own policy after the president violated it in order to potentially accommodate his tweet?
Yes.
So they go through this whole theory through this whole thing about how Twitter is biased in favor of Democrats and liberals. And what is it?
They're anti-Republican.
Anti-conservative. And what do they find out? No, they changed their policy for Trump. And that more than one occasion, they let him slide because he was the president. So you can't sit there and say that they're anti-conservative when they're basically letting the conservative president slide on what was openly racist and anti-immigrant. And it was just craziness from there. So what they found out was, yeah, they were biased, but mostly in favor of the conservatives. And even the Twitter people admitted to that. That that's how it was. Probably because that's where the money comes from. The other one that was really funny is this. So this came up, and you're going to love this. So Chrissy Teigen, she's a model. She's married to John Legend. I guess her and John Legend got into a Twitter fight with Trump. I can't remember when it was, like 2019 or something. We'll find out. I have the tweets. So anyway, at one point, Chrissy Teigen wrote a nasty tweet about Trump, and he got very upset. And he had the staff at the White House call Twitter and ask them to remove her tweet. And they had a big, long discussion about it. But we're going to start out with, this is the tweet that got Donald Trump so upset. Here it is. We'll put it up here. Oops. So, Chrissy Teigen wrote, LOL, what a pussy-ass bitch. Tagged everyone but me and honor Mr. President. So, here's where this gets better. Twitter didn't really have a reason to pull this down. Right? So, the executives got together and were trying to figure out, okay, well, how can we pull this down? Under what rule do we have that we could potentially pull this down? And they did have a rule that said you couldn't have more than 3 insults in a tweet. So then a long discussion began about, is the phrase pussy ass bitch, is that 1 insult? Is that 2 insults? Or is that 3 insults?
Okay, well, let's see. You could be a pussy.
Yeah.
You could be an ass.
And a bitch.
You could be a bitch.
That would be 3. Or
you could be a pussy ass
bitch. That would be 1. You could be a
pussy ass.
And a bitch. That'd be 2.
And a bitch. Or you could be an ass bitch.
And a pussy, which that would be 2.
And a pussy. That's 2.
But there's no hyphens or punctuation, so it's really vague on this one. In the end, Twitter decided, nah, it's less than 3. We'll leave it. But you're an English teacher, Lacey. What do you think? 1, 2, 3?
I mean, you kind of got to do a lot of combining in order to try to, hit that number quota. I mean, I might go so far as to say it's a 3 because you can be a pussy, you can be an ass, and you can be a bitch, and those are 3 separate words. So I might go as far as saying that could be 3.
I don't know why Trump would get upset at that, though. Aren't those the 3 things he loves the most in this world?
Well, he likes to grab them.
Without permission, yeah. Okay. Well, let us know in the comments. Is it 1, 2, or 3? It's the mystery of our time now. But don't you just love it that after all that, a celebrity insults the president and he has the White House call Twitter to whine about it? It's so pathetic. And then you have representatives up there screaming. Marjorie Taylor Greene, her 5 minutes, that's all she did was yell at them. Didn't do any fact finding, didn't ask any questions, I'm just going to yell at you because I'm angry. And you're mean.
You were mean to me.
Yeah. I didn't inherit my daddy's business to take shit from you, okay?
Oh my goodness.
I know. Just amazing. All right, well, let's move on. Let's move on to something.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm done with people yelling at Twitter. Or not even current Twitter people either, like former Twitter people.
And they're just sitting there rolling their eyes like, what the fuck? Why?
They're
Why?
like, I don't even work there anymore. They're like, I don't care. I don't work there
I
anymore.
don't care. Yeah. Anyway, I know that didn't have much to do with finance, but it was fun news to go through. So let's get to some finance stuff. The State of the Union address. Biden talked a lot about Social Security and different things, but he jumped right in with Social Security and Medicare because right now they're doing the debt ceiling issue, which we had talked about last time. And that's one of the things the Republicans have been kind of holding over them. But he did some magical stuff at the State of the Union. For those of you that missed it, we're going to watch it right now. But he addressed this, and he made something amazing happen. Couldn't believe it myself, but we're going to watch it real quick.
Some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I enjoy conversion.
I got to do this real quick. So Marjorie Taylor Greene got shit for this because she yelled and interrupted him a bunch of times during his speech. And he just kept rolling like he didn't care. But nothing says woman of the people like an heiress wearing a fucking fur coat screaming at the president.
I'm not gonna lie, I feel super represented right now. So represented.
They're my people. You know how much fur I like to wear.
She's going for her Ava Perón look or something. I don't know.
Oh God, Cruella de Vil.
I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks.
Cruella de Vil was ready to throw a shoe at something.
Yeah, watch this though. Just watch Kevin McCarthy here in the back while they're screaming at him. Watch what he does here, because he does this through the whole thing. But
the idea is that we're
see, he's trying to shush them the whole time because they're not helping their cause. And Biden knows it. That's why he's like, "Oh yeah, well we can talk about it. We'll talk about it now." Doing the old man stick on him, and they're fucking eating it up.
We're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond, folks. So, folks, as we all apparently agreed, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? You're not going to respond. All right. We got unanimity. Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they've started.
So he got the Republicans to admit on national television during the State of the Union address, no, we're not going to go after Social Security and Medicare. Because they can't. They'll lose voters, even though that's what they want to do. And that's what Rick Scott's been promoting, and that's what the RNC was promoting, and McConnell kept saying, no, shut up, don't fucking say that, shut up, shut up, shut up. You got McCarthy back there telling him, shut up, sit down, shut up. Because now they're painted in a corner. Because now he can't go in there and say, hey, we want to make changes to Social Security. Because if he does, Biden can go, State of the Union. You go explain that on Sunday shows on Fox and CNBC and NBC and CNN. Now he's in a tightrope of a situation because he's got to deal with his caucus, and he doesn't have a big lead. And a lot of those guys are not going to want to have to humiliate themselves and go, well, wait a minute, we just agreed we weren't going to do it on national television. I'm not fucking doing it now. Especially a lot of the Republicans in New York and California. They're going to be like, I'm not losing my constituents.
They're like, like, no.
No, most of my constituents are on Social Security. That's how I got freaking elected. I didn't get elected by Gen Z. But yeah, so he nailed that. I mean, if you didn't watch the State of the Union, he did nail that. So he covered that. Social Security, Medicare. The Republicans have been trying to cut it for a long, long time. Ever since they started it back in the 30s, the conservatives have wanted to cut it. But yeah, so that was a good move. He did talk. It was pretty progressive. If you guys watched the whole thing, which I encourage you to do if you haven't. A lot of the stuff he talked about, he's not going to be able to get done, not with a Republican House. But it's nice to hear a president talk about, like, yeah, let's talk about expanding these things in Social Security. Let's talk about, he talked about an assault weapons ban, which I thought was pretty ballsy for president. Whether you agree with that or not, it's a pretty aggressive move. So I give him points for stepping up and doing something. But the other thing he talked about was an alternative minimum tax. And so let's go into that real quick, because I think that would be an interesting thing to discuss. So this will be a short one.
The idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And I need to be crystal.
So, you know who she is, right? Elizabeth Warren. The reason the camera goes to her is she pushed that really hard. So, for those of you that don't know, when you pay your taxes, you have your gross income, your after-tax income, right? And then what ends up happening is you have your adjusted gross income on your taxes, right? And that's what you pay tax on, and that's minus whatever deductions, your personal deduction, child deductions, etc. So it's called an AGI, adjusted gross income. You're not familiar with alternative minimum tax, what that is, or AMT is what he's talking about. That's for ultra rich people and companies. But companies haven't had one forever. Ultra rich people do, because they get to a point where they can deduct so much that it's like they wouldn't be paying taxes otherwise. So they pay an alternative minimum tax. Right? Well, what they do is, why aren't corporations doing that? Because for years, like Starbucks has paid almost zero in taxes in the United States. They pay more in taxes to Canada than they pay to us, and they're an American company, right? So now they said, well, from now on, we're doing an alternative minimum tax, which he signed into law, and boom, they have to pay 15%. Period. Regardless of what their adjusted gross was, they have to pay 15. Well, that brings in a ton of revenue to solve a lot of other problems, right? So that's an important thing to understand. It's also an important thing to understand if if you have a big business or even a small business. It's nice to know, because small businesses, like I run a couple small businesses, we get raked in taxes. And it's painful, because you're sitting there like, okay, I paid 35 or 36% in tax when you factor in state and federal and local and everything else. But then my competitor down the street, it's a billion-dollar company, paid nothing. Right? Makes it hard to compete.
Right.
Not that it wasn't already. But that's I think that's an important factor right there, is that just him talking about taxes, raising taxes on, especially on the wealthy. He wasn't talking about anything that would affect you or me. or anybody in the bottom 90%. Right? But
I'm wondering if on the opposite side there's a concern about impact of the stock market.
yeah, so that was the other thing to talk about too. He talked about putting taxes and penalties on buybacks, stock buybacks. Was something he discussed. We're not going to go into too much about that, but we can go into it real quick now. For those of you who don't know, in stocks, so stocks are valued by demand mostly in the market. But the other thing that factors in is what is the value of the stock, the sort of innate value of the stock. So if Lacey and I have a company, and let's say that the total value, cash value, liquid value today of the company is like 1,000, right? And we have 100 stocks, then our stocks should be around $10 a piece. Now they might be trading for higher or lower in the market, but $10 is sort of the tacked value that we would give it, right? Now let's say Lacey and I are in a position where we have a lot of extra cash, but they're raising interest rates and stuff like that, right? Well, it's probably not a good position for us to start borrowing money or getting rid of our cash. But what we can do is we can take that cash and buy back a bunch of our stock out of the market, right? So let's say of the 100 shares we had in the market, we bought 50 of them back, okay? So now we only have 50 shares in the market, but we're still worth 1,000. So now the innate value has gone from 10 to 20. So the demand value in the market's going to go up. So the value of our stock's going to go up a lot, even though we've just warehoused that stock on the books. And since Lacey and I are owners of the company and most of our interest in the company is probably in stock, Lacey and I just made a shit ton of money by taking probably government money or tax breaks and using it to buy back our stock, which is what happens all the time. So when you see these like government bailouts and stuff, and then the companies go do huge stock buybacks, that's what they're doing. The executives are basically saying, well, let's take all this free money we're getting from the government. Let's buy back our stock, improve the company position, and in the meantime, we'll all make millions and millions of dollars off that money. And it'll all be legit. I mean, it's almost a way to launder federal government money and then steal it and put it in your own pocket in a legal way. So yeah, I think that's something that we should talk about taxing or putting penalties on. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with any of that. The other big thing that they wanted to talk about, and we'll go through this real quick, is we're going to go through a Dave Ramsey video because he didn't talk about the State of the Union because frankly, he's so conservative and he doesn't like Biden. And Biden nailed the State of the Union, so that would just be embarrassing for him. But what he does talk about is they did the Secure Act 2.0, or the Secure 2.0 Act is what it's called. Anyway, the deal about this was a bipartisan bill that passed, and it's changed a lot about how retirement savings and retirement accounts work. And we're going to go through some of this together. We're probably going to, oddly enough, agree with Ramsey on a lot of this stuff for the first time in this show's history. We're not going to totally agree, but we'll probably generally agree because this is pretty good just in general for the average person. So we're going to break precedent and actually try to be nice. So here we go. You ready, Lace?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna move them quicker.
Well, in the twilight, as 2022 is coming to a close, Congress passed a massive spending bill, of course, because that's what you should do if you're in Congress. And but the good news is, as a part of that, they also passed what is appropriately called the Secure Act of 2022, 2.0. So what is the Secure Act 2.0? Well, it changes a bunch of things in your retirement and a couple of things in your student loans as well. And a good blog at RamseySolutions.com right now, very good detail on this, unpacked if you want to get in there and really look at it and plug around. I think we post those blogs on Facebook.
No, skip his blog. It was not that good.
And look at it
Blah, blah,
in
blah.
detail. But for those of you that don't make it over the blog, let's hit the highlights.
Yeah, there's a ton in here that really help a lot of people with their retirement. I mean, Secure Act stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement. So kudos to the marketing team that got to create that little acronym there.
Yeah, well, good luck with that part. But anyway, it's good. It's good updates. It's some things that needed to happen.
Yes, so starting with required minimum distributions. You'll hear these called RMDs. The age is rising to 73 instead of 72, which means you have an extra year without the government tapping you to get some of their cash.
Yeah, required minimum distributions are your 401k, your Roth, or your not Roth, your
Okay, so this one I think is like the least important one, but I can see where they're excited about it because most of their viewers are probably in their 60s anyway. So required minimum distribution, basically if you have a 401k or a retirement account of any type, right, an IRA, whatever, 403b, 457, blah, blah, blah. When you're 70 and a half, what happens is the government says, okay, you're 70 and a half, your life expectancy is going to be whatever, 86. So however many months you have, we assume you have left to live on the chart, right? On the life expectancy chart, we're going to take that number of months, we're going to divide the amount you have by those number of months, and you have to take that out every month of that account. We're requiring you. That's your minimum distribution you got to take every month. And the reason that they do that is because they don't want you holding that money forever, right? And giving it to your kids and stuff. They want you to take it out and pay tax.
Uncle Sam's got his hand out, man.
Right. Well, it's about taxes. Because you
right. That's exactly what it's about. Yeah.
Right. And that's where he got confused. With the Roths, it's not. They do the required minimum distributions on the Roths, but they're actually taking that away now because it's pointless that you've already paid tax. But there are some issues I have with that. But in this case, I mean, yeah, they just so you can get your taxes. Well, now they're saying, well, instead of whatever it is, 71 and a half years old, you can wait till 73. Right. For certain people, I think it's 72 this year, and then it's going to go up next year and whatever. So that's fine. That's good for people that don't need it. It doesn't really affect middle class and lower income people because most of those are already taking money out of those accounts every month. So it doesn't really affect them. This really is only a benefit if you're rich. And even then, it's not that big of a benefit because they're still going to take the number of months they assume you have left to live. You're just going to have a bigger RMD when you're 73. So it doesn't really change much. The one that it does change is with the Roth. They're not going to require it at all, which if you're rich means you can put all your money in you can put a bunch of money into a Roth, right, account. And then you never have to cash that out. You can just let that ride and leave it to your kids. And basically it's tax-free estate. So not a great thing in my view. There should be some tax, but oh well, it is what it is. But honestly, most of you, this is not going to affect in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know why they begin with it, other than I'm sure most of the people they're talking to are upper middle class, that this, will probably give a shit. But for the vast majority of people, this isn't going to make a difference. You're never going to notice this. Anything else you want to add to that, or? Yeah. That's just a weird one to start with. I wouldn't have even have thrown it in the list because I don't even think it's that important. But all right, let's go.
Additional IRAs, they require you to start taking money.
Yeah.
It moves to 73, so you can leave your money alone and not touch it till 73. Now that's good.
Next one, no more required minimum distributions from Roth 401ks and Roth 403bs.
We just covered that. Yep.
Roth.
That's great. Next up, smaller penalties for missed required.
What? Go ahead.
Let's just pause there to clarify. Now, you always could leave your money in a Roth IRA. That in an IRA, we were able to do that.
Right.
With Roth 401ks, Roth 457s, Roth 403bs. If you had a Roth with an employer-sponsored situation, that was where they still hit you with the required minimum distribution. So that going away across the board is really great because a lot of companies are actually moving toward Roth options there. And, you might not be positioned where you can just let it ride, but I do think it's nice to have options.
No, I don't disagree. And you got to remember, too, what the Roth is initially designed for was lower income people, right? The idea is that when you're young, you don't have that much. Because okay, just to be real simple, if I make the same amount of money my whole life, if I'm 18 and all of a sudden, let's say I make 100,000, and that's what I make every year for the rest of my life, right? From 18 to 65 or 70, whatever it is. If I make that and I put it in a Roth or a traditional, the taxes will be the same either way. Even though in a traditional, I don't pay the tax till I pull it out. In a Roth, I pay the tax up front. It'll be identical, the amount I'll pay in tax. That's why it's set up that way. The idea, though, is that if you're making a lower tax bracket when you're young and you expect that you'll make more later, the idea is to get you to start saving when you're younger, and you can go ahead and save and pay the taxes up front while you're at the lower tax bracket. And then when you get to the higher tax bracket, in your mid 30s or 40s or whatever it is, then you go to a traditional account and don't pay the taxes, because when you're older, you'll be in a lower tax bracket because you won't be making any money. You'll just be taking money out. So the idea is to strategize the tax on this. Now, what ended up happening, though, is that with the Roth, yeah, it's great if you're lower income. You should be doing a Roth and pay the tax now, right? Because then later when you're older, you'll probably be at a higher tax bracket, right? So that was the idea behind it. Now, what ends up happening is I'm really rich, right? I want to convert my money into a Roth if I can, because when I take money out of a Roth, it's not taxable. None of it is. Not even the growth. As we're on a traditional, the growth is all taxable, right? So if I want to leave money to my kids or something, and I can dump a bunch of it into a Roth and convert it, then that's a tax-free account I can leave to my kids at any point, where they don't have to take any sort of real distribution. So those are things that, it's a strategy both ways. The strategy they're thinking of is not so much the sort of loophole the rich can kind of use, but the more of this is important for middle to lower income people. We want to encourage them to be able to do this and not have to worry about it and not have to stress about minimum distributions or anything later. So it's fine. I just don't think it's that big of an issue when you're talking to especially people in their 20s and 30s, because they don't really care about, okay, well, when I'm 70, I can wait an extra year and a half to take the money out. Good. Tell me that in 50 years when it fucking applies, right? Yeah, they don't care right now. So I think it's just kind of a weird thing to open with, but it's interesting.
Too much about it. But my point is that I think it's nice to have options, and not. I mean, if there's less requirements on what you do with it, and you have more options with, maybe you have to take it, maybe you don't, because maybe you're at a lower income because you're a teacher or something, but you've got a pension, and you actually, maybe you're fine on between your pension and your Social Security, and you were sticking this money in a Roth 401k or 403b or 457, depending on, and you were like, actually, kind of good for now, so having the option to just let it sit there, I can see scenarios like that, because my day job is as a teacher, and I work with a lot of teachers, and while they don't make tons of money, we do have a Roth option.
Yeah.
And so if they're putting money in there, that's giving them some choices, which is cool.
No, absolutely. But it's something more of your financial advisor, planner would know more about and think about. Not something that I think the average person should be ultra concerned with. So, but it is in there. I just don't know why they opened with it. It's just, but we'll go through it.
Higher minimum distributions. It was 50%. It's coming down to 25%.
Yeah, if you miss your RMDs. No,
that's good.
Yeah.
Next, higher catch-up contributions on the way. So if you're 50 years or older, there's a lot of great ways you can step up your retirement. Put an extra $1,000 in your.
Yeah, but that's normal all the time. They always step up the contribution. So just so you guys know, so when you're over 50, so like right now, I think it was 7,000. You can 6,000 or 7,000. You can put into an IRA. I think it's 6, but you can put in like an extra $1,000 if you're over 50. It's just a way to catch up faster if you're behind.
Well, this actually applies to your 401k, 403b,
3B,
457
all
accounts as well.
all retirement accounts. Yeah.
But it's more than 1,000 in those accounts for your catch up. So it's a smaller catch up in your IRAs, but it's a
Yeah.
larger catch up for sure in those accounts.
Right. I think now with a 401k, it's 24,000, something like that. You can put in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that.
But once again, it only applies if you're over 50.
IRA, for example, an extra 5,000, extra 7,500 in your 401ks, and they're increasing that.
Yeah, 60 to 63, beginning in 25, in 2025, January 1. If you're age 60 to 63, you'll be able to put $10,000 annually into a workplace retirement plan, an additional $10,000. And so it allows you, if you're, quote, running behind, is it too late for me? This is for you, right?
Love it. All right, next up on the good news front, easier access to retirement funds for emergencies. Or is it?
Not good news.
That's one of the downers of this plan here. We were doing so great, Dave. We were on a great
We had
roll.
1,000 until we got to stupid land here.
And so here's what this means. Starting in 2024, you can withdraw up to $1,000 from your retirement account for personal or family emergencies. If you've been listening to the show for more than 10...
Okay. I guess we found a point of disagreement. Look at that. So that one's pretty interesting. So what they're saying is, right now, let's say you had to withdraw money from your 401k or your IRA or something like that. Typically, you can, like a 401k, you can borrow the money, like loan it from your 401k, but you have to pay it back. Or there's a small penalty on that. Or you can just take the money out. But if you take the money out before you're 59 and a half, you have to pay a 10% penalty fee. Unless you're a hardship or something. There's certain exceptions. You're familiar with all this, right, Lace?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, now they're saying they'll let you take out $1,000 a year for emergency stuff if without the 10% penalty. So the idea is you can access those accounts earlier if you need to. Now they're upset about it because they think that's bad that you should be allowed to access those accounts if you need the money. But the bottom line is most Americans do that anyway.
I honestly have mixed feelings about this one because I am not an advocate of taking money out of your retirement accounts early.
Sure.
For emergencies and whatever. I don't like it. But knowing people are inclined to do that anyway, I would rather them not have to also be, eating this extra cost unnecessarily. So my feelings are mixed.
Well, no, but it's not. Their access is up to 1,000 once a year. So they're not letting you take out $50K out of your freaking retirement account. It's $1,000 for emergencies without penalties. Okay, this is not like they're breaking the bank here. Okay, the other thing about it is even if you were to take that out every year, you needed it. They've added the ability to do catch up, and they're increasing the amount you can catch up in your 50s. So they've already covered that, and we're gonna push back the RMDs. So if you have to save for longer, work for longer, that's just, you have that option without having to withdraw this money. But the thing about it is, let's see, employees can set up a Roth emergency savings account with up to $2,500 per participant. Survivors of domestic abuse can withdraw the lesser of $10,000 or 50% of their retirement account without penalty if they need to escape abuse. That's, I think, a pretty good one. As where before you'd have to take the 10% penalty and all that. Right?
Yeah, I like that. Makes sense.
Victims of natural disaster, if it's a qualified federally declared disaster, withdraw up to $22,000 from their retirement account without penalty. That's what this is about. They didn't read the whole thing. It's $1,000 for emergency. So you have to declare that there's an emergency fund that you need. Right? That's the max you can do without penalty. Right? Unless you're in a situation where you're a domestic abuse survivor, or you're trying to get out of domestic abuse, or you just faced a natural disaster. So there really isn't anything to get on about this. I mean, $1,000 is not that much. But if you're in an emergency and you need $1,000, the kind of people that would need that would be lower income. And for them to have to pay a 10% penalty is fucking devastating if you're living that poor. So I don't know why they're upset about it. I think it's perfectly fine. You know, and it's clearly not something a Republican came up with. It's clearly a Democrat saying, "Hey, what about the poor?"
10 seconds, you'll know that you should never tap your retirement accounts for emergencies.
Yeah, you should have an emergency fund and leave your freaking retirement account alone and let it grow and make you rich.
Absolutely. All right.
Dum, 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 dum.
Here's an interesting one. Curious to get your take on this, Dave. Employers must automatically enroll you into a workplace retirement plan.
This is nanny state stuff.
Holding your hand.
This is we're going to take care of you because you're too stupid to take care of yourself idea. And so now when you join a company that has a 401k, the company is required to sign you up for the 401k automatically.
At an automatic minimum contribution rate of 3%.
And if
Wow, I thought I'd agree with him on more here. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the finer details of that. Like if somebody can go in and dial their own thing back or something. 'Cause
Yeah.
I imagine you could go in after automatically enrolled and being like, I don't want that done, and undo it. But I think what it is it's. I get into behavior a lot in the work that I do with clients. Literally, our financial behaviors, and people tend to procrastinate, and for various reasons, they just put off doing something, being like, "Oh yeah, I think that I was eligible for that in November, and here it's July or whatever," and
Right.
you could have been putting something in, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I got to take care of that," and then like September hits, and they still didn't take care of that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
3% is not much, but if the protocol is, and when you're hired, they go, we will automatically be enrolling you after 90 days into this with a 3% contribution. Here, and what's even better, if they just little form to you and said, here, if you would like that to automatically be a higher amount, why don't you just jot that down here, sign, and that's what's automatically going to happen,
Well,
right?
right.
As opposed to waiting for people to go and log in and do the thing. It's just going to happen.
Right. Well, that's just the thing, is it's just right now, a lot of times though, he says nanny state and that kind of stuff. A lot of times though, is you have the employer and they have it, but they don't really do anything with it. They don't tell their employees. They don't really inform them. They're not really set up for it. Right. Or the
Yeah.
guy explaining it to the employee comes in and it's, they're 20 or 25 and you're like, yeah, we have a 401k, but they never explain to them how to sign up for it.
So that is actually a real experience that I have had. So we had essentially what is like a 403B that was advertised to us that we could utilize. Being teachers, have a pension, you can also put money into this 403B.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a good couple of years into my teaching career, I heard from a much older veteran teacher when I was scoring some exams, they were like, oh, well, I'm using the 401k. I'm like, oh, you mean the 403B, right? They're like, no.
Right.
I was like, wait, what? It turned out that we had access sort of through a different avenue, but to a 457, both traditional and Roth, and a 401k, both traditional and Roth. Our 403B was only traditional.
Oh, right.
And all these teachers had no idea we had access to these other accounts. So I started doing a bunch of like free online workshops for the teachers, like educate them about what this is and what they had access to. And people were really excited, but then also simultaneously ticked off because no one was telling them they even had the option.
But as opposed to if they had just been automatically signed up for it, they'd have found out.
They automatically start getting statements for it.
Their next paycheck, they're immediately going to see, hey, wait a minute. How much of this went to a 401k? I didn't do that. I want this money back. Then they could get their money back and shut it down. No problem. You're not required to stay in it. The employer's required to make sure you have it. Right. And I've done that before with businesses where they have to set up a 401k and none of their employees do it. And they're like, well, we can't understand why nobody does it. And I'm like, well, let me go talk to him. And I'll go talk to like one employee and be like, hey, did you sign up for the 401k? This is what it does. This is how it works, yada, yada. Right? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, let's do it. And then within a day, everybody in the company or the business is calling me going, hey, how do I sign up for the 401k? I want the matching. Yeah, no shit you do.
Right. Because they didn't realize it was there. It wasn't made particularly easy for them to figure out how they could participate in it.
Right.
I mean, when you put too many obstacles in front of people, they don't know anything about it, and then you put all these different obstacles in front of them in order to even get signed up for it. People go, I don't understand it or how to get into it.
That's right.
With that,
right.
know?
Right. It's like if you don't know the pretty girl has a crush on you, then it doesn't occur to you to ask her out. So I don't think it's a nanny state or terrible. I think it's actually a great thing. It forces the employers to be a little bit more proactive about this shit.
And people aren't forced to stay in it if they don't want to. They can dial themselves out.
No, as soon as they get their paycheck, they'll see it. And they can go, what's this? Well, I don't want to do that. You're like, all right, fine. You know, up to you. No one's forcing anybody to do anything here, except for the employer to make sure that everybody has it. Which, you know, as an employer, you should fucking be on top of that shit anyway. So let's keep going real quick.
If you don't want that to happen, you have to opt out, manually go in and opt out. You have to stop it from occurring.
Oh, no.
That's too much control. It's got a good intent. Want everybody to have a retirement account. That's a good thing. Yes, you need to be in your 401k. But let's say you're working the baby steps, you would need to opt out because you're not doing 401k because you're on baby step 2.
Well, and the other problem.
Well, that's assuming we're doing your dipshit plan, Dave, but we're not. So
the problem is, if you are in a place to invest, you've got 3%. You don't realize it. You need to up that to 15% if you're out of debt with a fully funded emergency fund.
Yeah.
So be sure you pay attention to that stuff.
Don't, we're from the government and we're here to help. These are scary words, okay?
A 3% rate is not going to get you very far in retirement. So we've got to do better for sure. Next, this has been one of some hot debate. Employers can match your student loan payments with retirement contributions.
It's confusing.
Yes.
So this sounds like they're paying your student loans. Now, some employers are now offering a benefit that has nothing to do with this, just where they will help you pay your student loans off, one way or another, whatever it is. They'll match you, they'll do whatever. It has nothing to do with anything as far as this stuff goes. This is not that. This is you pay up to $3,000 on your student loan, and your employer puts up to $3,000 into your 401k, which doesn't. It's just like,
wouldn't that incentivize you to never pay off your student loans?
We want you to eat apples, so we're going to chop more.
All right, so this is. Oh man.
Okay, I'm going to admit that one is kind of weird in the idea of how it operates because it's matching you in a totally different place. However, I have to say, any situation where me doing the behavior that I need to be doing translates into my employer giving me more money in some way, I like.
So here's what that issue is, and it's really not that complicated. So like I have friends who do, they've done nursing or they're a physician's assistant or something like that, or a doctor. And hospitals have deals where if you come and you work for them, as a doctor or nurse or whatever, and you stay for whatever, 5 years, whatever it is, they'll pay half your student loans off. And the reason is because they get to deduct all that money from the government. So for them, it is not a huge cost for them to pay off half your student loans. And it's an incentive to get you to come and stay, right? Now, I have a master's in finance, which is a specialized business degree. If I go work for a company, you know what they're not going to do? If I stay 5 years, they're not going to pay off half my student loans. Why? Because they don't get any incentive for doing that. There is no kickback. It only applies to certain things like hospitals or things that have government subsidies, right? That get those. So this is a way for them to get the kickback because now they can go, well, wait a minute, Duncan, how much we'll help you with this. We want you to stay, to incentivize you to stay. How much did you pay this year in student loans? And I'd be like, well, I paid $6,000 in student loans this year. And they can be like, okay, well, we'll match that and put that same $6,000 in your 401k, right? We get to take the deduction as the business, and you didn't really pay $6,000 because it's in your 401k now. It's almost like you didn't pay student loans, you just put that in your 401k. So all we did was slide a card between this hand to that hand and put it in your fucking 401k. I don't see what the fucking problem with this is. I think this is great. It's a great idea.
Hey, like I said, I mean, it is a little confusing in how it's presented, but I mean, essentially they're giving you more free money, and that seems like that's a win. So,
And it's a deduction.
Yeah.
It's a deduction for the business.
right.
I mean, if I can deduct it as essentially as pay, employee pay, I don't pay tax on any of that. That's free money as far as I'm concerned as a business owner. And if that means I can retain somebody who has a graduate degree, who I normally would have a hard time retaining, of course, as a company, I'm going to love this, right? Because I want to get that guy Steve, who's got the master's degree and he's just awesome and he's great, right? And I want to retain him. Here's a good program to help me do that, right? And I get a deduction. So this is, I mean, I think that one's just kind of a win-win. And I know it sounds a little complicated. It's not something you as an individual have to worry about, though. It's something a business owner has to worry about. Do I want to do this? Because it's not like you're making that decision. Your boss, your company's making that decision, whoever it is, right? But I'm telling you right now, as a business owner, I love it, man. I'm all for it. I'll take that deduction every day of the week.
Oranges. It's just weird. You mix these things up, and people are getting confused about it already. They think it means the government's going to pay part of your student, or the employer's going to pay part of your student loan and match you on what you're putting on your student loan. They're not. They have to put it in the 401k. So it's weird.
Well, because
anything that gets more money.
But this doesn't, once again, this is not something you need to worry about. This is something your employer deals with. Most of this bill puts it on the employer. This is not something you, the individual, have to worry about as much.
Against your student loan, it causes you to do that. Anything that gets more money into your retirement, I'm for all of that, but this is just convoluted and weird.
Well, wouldn't you be pissed if you already paid off your student loans or didn't have any, and Joe Schmo's next to you is getting an extra $3,000 in his 401k?
That's a benefit, though. That's your employer offering a benefit. The employer's not required to offer this benefit.
I'm curious to see how many employers do this.
Yeah, I don't think they'll. Well, you never know.
You never know out there. All right. Next up, you can roll over unused 529 plan funds to a Roth IRA.
Ding, ding,
Oh, that's a fucking awesome thing. I bet you they agree with us. I'll bet you they agree with us on this because that's a great idea.
This one I love.
Yeah,
It's been a big,
that's a great
point
idea.
of objection. People go, well, Dave, what if my kid doesn't go to college? They don't use all the money. That money's just wasted.
Yeah, it's not. You
Now
can,
you can roll it
after
over.
15 years, your kid rolls it into their Roth IRA, no penalties.
Up to
Love
the
it.
contribution.
So you put $150,000 into a 529. Kid uses 75 or 80,000 of it, whatever's left in there, sits there 15 years growing tax free in good mutual funds, and then they roll it into a Roth IRA into good mutual funds, and it continues to grow tax free, no penalties.
Yeah, that's great.
That one I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah.
fun
I think that's just a no-brainer. That was a great idea. I don't know how anybody could not like that.
Roth options are now available for simple IRAs and SEP IRAs. So folks that are self-employed business owners, this is cool.
I think that's a great idea too, and this is why.
Love.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say love. I love that.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, if you start a business, simple IRAs or SEPs, simple employee pensions, especially for like solo business owners, you're going to learn how those work. But they're independent retirement accounts, IRAs, that you can use to save for your retirement. And most of those you can save up to 20% of your income into those, up to 50,000, whatever the lesser is. So if you're right now, we've had a record of people starting small businesses. So these are great programs to start putting yourself in, especially if it's just you're a sole proprietor, if it's you and like one or two employees, things like that. Or if you want to do an independent 401k, any of that stuff. Those are all great things. But the thing about it is until now, you always had to put it into a traditional account, which means you have to pay tax on it later. Well, if you're starting out your business and you're probably not making a ton of money, you are probably maxing out what you can put into that because you want to take the deduction, but your taxes should be really low. So right now, it'd be like, wouldn't it be great if I could just stick it to a Roth, simple employee pension, or a Roth simple, or something like that, right? So that's a great option, that you can pay the tax on it now and let it grow for later. Because even if your business fails, you can just leave it there and let it grow forever and ever. So you can still get something out of it. So it's a great idea for business owners, especially small business owners, to be able to have a Roth option. I think is phenomenal. Because even if everything blows up in your face, you can still have something making money on the back end to make it worthwhile. So, and if it works out, then even better. You've got that extra Roth sitting there just doing whatever. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea. A lot of this stuff in Secure Act, it was Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders pushed for a lot of this stuff. So I think it's odd that these guys are agreeing with it because they hate them. So
I'm not sure they.
The Roth
I'm not sure they
Roth
didn't. Yeah, I'm not sure they didn't already have that, but I could be wrong. So it's good though. Yeah, the simple IRA is simply a 401k for small business, and the SEP IRA is the simple incentive match plan for it's best used by a solopreneur, because if you have employees just with the same amount in,
you got to match
pay it for yourself. So we seldom use SEP IRAs much, but simple IRAs are great for small businesses to open up, and now they can do a Roth.
That's good news. And lastly, new emergency savings account option alongside retirement accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's a little different than the previous one, but it's saying that the employer can set aside up to $2,500 annually for non-highly compensated employees in a separate emergency savings alongside their retirement account.
Yeah.
So it's a little sidecar here.
Yeah.
But is it invested?
The problem is $2,500 is not enough for an emergency fund, and so then you've got the $1,000 you can take out of your 401k for your emergency, and you've got it all over at the employer. And so people get the idea, oh, my emergency fund's taken care of. It's not. It's not enough money. There's very few of you that 3 to 6 months of expenses represents $2,500. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those head fakes that the government's saying, hey, look, we did something, and they didn't want to do anything because it's not sufficient to cover it. Now they could do up to $10,000 in there.
Okay, yeah, he's confused about this. This is not the government. Nobody's forcing the employer to do this. But it's just something.
It's also, he's right that it's not a fully funded emergency savings, but he obviously wasn't really listening. Like, they were talking about people who are not being compensated very highly, and the average American doesn't have the ability to do anything with a $400 emergency. So if you've got $2,500, sitting there with your employer, and you're not making that much, and you have an emergency come up, that is way better than what's going to happen. You're throwing it on your credit card if there's enough room for it, which Ramsey is not a fan of. So I don't know that I understand why he can't just say, this is a good idea, but tack on. But what you need to know is you probably really need to have more saved than that.
Right. So this is kind of a real benefit if you're an employer and you have a lot of lower income employees. You have a lot of people making $15 and $20 an hour, right? Mm-hmm. So here's what I do for all those people. I throw in $2,500 or less, whatever it is, up to $2,500 into an emergency account. Okay, I get to deduct all that money, and they can use that money for emergency stuff. They have medical problems, whatever. They can access it, and I get the deduction. However, from my understanding of the bill, and correct me anybody if I'm wrong here, because this was how I understood it, it's for emergency kind of money only. So let's say you're my employee, you've worked for me for 3 years, I've got $7,500 in that account for you, right? For emergency funds that you can access. That's not your money. That's emergency money in a separate account. And I get to take the deduction every year. But if you leave, that doesn't mean you get to take that money with you. So it's a little bit of a head fake in the sense that it really gives me some leverage on you, because let's say you've been with me for 5 years. That's $1,250 or whatever, $12,500, right? That you're leaving on the table.
Yeah, that part's not great.
It's a little bit of a way to kind of trap your lower income employees, because that's emergency money that you have to now leave. you know,
Right.
and I'm going to take it back. I'll have to pay tax on it at that point, but I got the deduction for 5 years, and you know, and it made it hard for you to want to leave. Plus, it also gives me a little bit less excuse to, especially like lower income employees, to provide, I don't know, medical care. Because that's what medical care kind of does right now, is it's a way to trap employees. It's hard to want to
Right.
leave, especially if you have a kid or something, even if you're only making $20 an hour, but I'm providing even shitty medical care. This is an even cheaper way to do that. And I get a fucking tax break as the employer. I'm not thrilled about this, but you know, and it's optional too. So I mean, I don't know what they're bitching about, but I'm not thrilled about this at all. I think it's a little manipulative the way it works. But if I'm wrong and somebody read it differently, let me know. But that's how I understood it. I didn't read the whole bill, so I just skimmed through it. But yeah, did you have a thought on that? I just, because I've seen that done a lot, and anyway.
Well, I think it's a good thing, but I think that it's a good thing that needs the attention put on it, that it's not a replacement for building your own emergency fund, because if you don't have any other emergency fund, that could become very shackling.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, I'm kind of done with that. There's not much else they go through here. They're pretty much done. There are 119 provisions in the Secure 2.0 Act. Those are kind of the more prominent ones for retiree people and stuff, but it is actually, overall, I think it's really good. You know, for what it is, for retirement changing and trying to help people, especially younger people, start saving. The negative is I would argue we should have a better system of Social Security in this government and in the country, that we don't have to sit here and tell a bunch of 20-year-olds, well, you need to start saving now. Oh, you're basically going to work till you die. which is kind of the underlying title of this bill. It's all on you, otherwise society's going to leave you behind.
right.
Well, we'll just go to the end, but that's our show for today. Hope that was helpful for everybody in the Secure Act. We got to hear, Republicans gone wild, throwing tantrums.
Republicans gone wild.
Yeah, good stuff. Good show. Lace, where can everybody catch you?
Well, if you're looking for information about free workshops, coaching programs, or articles, you can find me at mysensewithsense.com. If you have questions about any of them or are interested in coaching programs, you can feel free to email us for information from me, or you could send us some more Republicans Gone Wild that you might want us to review and talk about.
Yes, you can send us emails at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. I might respond with a little tantrum. You don't know what my emotions are going to be. Okay, I get upset sometimes, but
you cannot censor him.
You cannot censor me. Violate my First Amendment rights. Anyway, send us emails. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great day, Lace, and we'll catch everybody later.